Do it.
All right. Welcome in, everybody. Week 6. Coming at you, episode 5. Flat on your
Let's
face.
go.
We are here live from the shed over at the McMurphy household. Yes, I said McMurphy. I'm allowed to do that. Um, um, but here, hey, huge weekend in college football. We'll get you guys up to date on all that. We've got week 6 coming up this week. Huge games to talk about this upcoming weekend. We'll actually visit the sports book this weekend and check to see how our parlays went. But if you're picking individually, you did win some money. This weekend, we'll go over our locks of the week as well. We'll dip our toes into the top 25 and give you our thoughts on team placement. Is it right? Is it wrong? Are we happy? Are we upset? Is there more Gator hater news to be had? Or, what else do we have in store? We got OU. Are they the worst team in the Big 12? Discussion time. Sooner fans aren't ready to have. Clemson, are they a fraud? Um, and is Georgia looking like they may miss out on the college football playoff? All this and more coming up here on the Stoner Sports Podcast. So keep it here with us as we've got plenty of discussions to go around the board. And first of all, I'd like to introduce my co-host and good friend, Cole Murphy. Cole, how are we doing today?
We're doing great. We're doing great.
So, huge weekend. Let's get into it. I'm going to boost you up a little bit here because I got some people that need to hear you. So, let's go over the games over the weekend. So, big time stuff. Um, let's start with Friday night. We actually had some games. Now, remember, we recorded episode Thursday last week, folks, so we didn't get to really dip our toes into any of the games going on then. But let's take a gander at this UCLA Washington game where Washington came in ranked number 15 in the country, undefeated, 4-0, going against an undefeated 4-0 UCLA team. Led by former Oregon coach Chip Kelly, and Chip Kelly and the boys get the job done, 40-32, and upset the Washington Huskies. What were your takeaways from any of that game? Did you get to catch any of that game?
Man, I ended up seeing the last bit of it. It was a great run by the quarterback there for UCLA. It was a very impressive play. Ended up making two defenders collide into each other. So big play there, and ended up getting the win for him there.
Yeah, big time win, and probably the biggest win of the season for Chip Kelly in his career over UCLA. I mean, it's hard to say that, but they haven't really been very good under him, and now you're sitting there 5-0 as UCLA is right now, and you know, it definitely helps booster the way your team looks at themselves moving forward, and also going into more Pac-12 play, it gives you a chance to look at UCLA as maybe a viable option to upset a USC or an Oregon or a Utah.
We would love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, take Oregon off the board. I'd love to see all of those teams lose except for Oregon this season. But that was Friday night's game, and then we went into Saturday and we had some great games. Oklahoma State and Baylor. This one was one of the ones that everybody wanted to watch over the weekend, and the Cowboys improved to 4-0. They win this one by 11, 36-25. And I'm sorry that you lost that pick over the weekend, but I picked the other side of that and came away very happy because I thought that my Cowboys would take care of business, and they did. And looking at the repercussions of this game, what were your takeaways from the Cowboys? Not really beating up on Baylor. Baylor kind of made a run late, but they had this
Yeah,
game in control from first whistle to last whistle.
definitely. It was a great game. Two great head coaches there, on both sides of the ball. OSU obviously getting the job done. Baylor was looking pretty even in the first half, and then OSU they were trying to crawl back there in the third, and then OSU ended up pulling away, getting the W there. I think it was a great game. I think that might be what we see in the Big 12 championship this year, but we'll see with those other teams how they're looking. But I mean, all in all, it was a great game. OSU obviously got the job done, so
Yeah,
Pokes are looking good. Baylor's not looking too bad either. So
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for Baylor because you go into that game ranked 16th in the country and you know they're going to fall after they lose
yeah,
this game. And that was kind of the way I was feeling was this is a good win, but you remember what happened last season too. OSU took care of business at home and beat Baylor, and then
yep,
Big 12 championship game, then you lose by 1 yard, but you still lost that game, and that's all anybody really remembers. And so you're
Yeah.
saying once again Baylor could come back to haunt Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game and ruin their chances of possibly going to the college football playoff. We'll get into that later, but I mean, they've done it before. They could do it again because people were saying that weekend that if OSU had won that game, they might have taken that 4th spot from Cincinnati, and that was a real thing. And once they lost that game, there was just no shot. So now the good part is that was we got a good game against Notre Dame in that Fiesta Bowl win for OSU, and that was a fun game to watch because OSU had to come back from behind and take care of business, and I love seeing Notre Dame lose, so I'm not going to complain about that. Um,
Right.
but overall, I think that you're right. This could come down to those teams playing again and possibly being again one of the biggest games for Oklahoma State in its football history. So they're definitely setting up for that. Baylor falls to 3-2, but you still don't think they're a bad team, right?
No, definitely not. I mean, like I was saying earlier, they didn't play a bad game. I just think a few possessions could have gone their way. We'd have been talking about a different outcome. So I definitely still think the Baylor Bears have a great chance this season.
Yeah, the big thing about that is when you look at the box score of that game, Cole, you had OSU getting outscored in the third quarter, 22-17, and that's really when they made their run. But the fourth quarter, OSU shut them out, no points, and all OSU did was tack on a field goal. So, like you said,
Yep.
I mean, Baylor had their opportunities, and I think they just squandered them. And I just think the ball didn't really bounce their way, and there was great interceptions by OSU's defense late in that, and that
Right.
really, sealed the deal. I mean, it was just a bad game for Baylor, and I think a great game for the OSU defense. And I don't think they're still as good of a defense as last year's team, but they're not slouch.
No, definitely not. OSU is definitely looking very sharp. Offense is looking pretty decent as well. But yeah, their defense just played a heck of a game on Saturday.
So let's move on to the next game down the line here. Another good matchup, Stanford and Oregon. Oregon gets the job done. They beat Stanford by 18. Um, so I mean, they covered, which I didn't have them covering going into this game because I just didn't feel good about
Yeah,
Stanford. And as an Oregon fan, we've had trouble with them in the past. But I mean, this game we kind of were in control the whole way. Bo Nix looked good. I mean, it was just it was kind of a feel good game for my Ducks, and I think moving on is just another confidence building win.
definitely. I mean, that's a huge win for them. Stanford always gives them trouble like in that season. So I'm glad your Ducks pulled through and had a good game.
Yeah, it was. I think it was much needed, and I think that they're going to need all the help they can get this season because I still think this team is kind of mid level. I mean, you lose to Georgia by 46 points, and I just don't have anything for you after that. I just don't know how good of a
Right.
team this team really is still, and I think that's kind of the scary part for me and Oregon Duck faithful alike. Um, Next game on the list was Oklahoma playing TCU. TCU just blew the doors out of the
Sorry,
Sooners.
Sooner fans.
And 55-24, the Horned Frogs improved to 4-0. OU falls to 3-2 and loses back-to-back games for the first time in like 20 years or some shit. I mean, just an abysmal performance. Dylan Gabriel obviously leaving the game with a concussion. Uh, late in that second quarter, Davis Bevel took over for him and only had 50 passing yards, so 7 of 16, and just didn't really do much offensively. And Javante Barnes was kind of the featured back for the Sooners for most of the day, and you didn't get to see Marcus Major at all. He didn't set foot on the field, but we expected that. That wasn't a surprise to anybody. I mean, what are your takeaways from this game, and how how far does OU fall here?
Sorry, Sooner fans. I mean, being an ex Sooner fan, I guess you could say for myself, it's just embarrassing. I mean, we had a lot higher expectations for this season, and starting off 0-2, it's embarrassing. It was a bad game on the Sooners. Obviously, I mean, Dylan Gabriel going out was a big loss. I mean, it was a cheap shot on the field. I'm not gonna lie. So during the play, it was definitely a late hit. So I mean, that's definitely a huge loss losing your starting QB. But other than that, I just don't think the Sooners were rolling. Defense was looking horrendous, getting beat almost every possession. So Sooners defense, not what we were looking at all. And offense, of course, losing Dylan Gabriel is a huge loss for them. So, um, I definitely think this drops the Sooners out of the top 25 entirely, and maybe into the 30s, maybe upper 30s for sure.
Yeah, we'll see how far they fell here in just a moment. But I don't know. Maybe you're right. 30s. I mean, it wasn't good. There was not really
Yeah,
much good to take away from
no.
that game. Now, moving on to one of the more shocking games of the evening. Me and you were keeping close tabs on this. Georgia escapes uh, Columbia, Missouri, 26-21 in the waning moments of the fourth quarter in that one, and we had big names in bars in the local area in Columbia, Missouri. Chase Daniel and Big Cat from Barstool Sports were at a bar down in Columbia, and we're gonna buy the whole. We're gonna put a $2,000 tab in the bar and let whoever wanted to come up to the bar to drink as much as they could till the tab ran out, use that money. And Chase Daniel was willing to put down 20 grand, the former NFL
Wow.
quarterback. But Missouri lost, so Chase and Big Cat kind of split it and both did $1,000, and people at the bar were getting free drinks until that tab ran out. So still a cool thing for them. Still a great
Cool
game
story.
for Missouri fans, as they don't have much to cheer about this season. So having that game be close and being ahead for most of that game, um, they were kind of starting to believe that maybe they could have the upset of the year in their hands. In typical Missouri fashion, they shit it away. Um, I mean, but what are your takeaways from the Georgia perspective of this game? Cool.
I think this is one of those games mid-season that you see the bigger ranking teams have and struggle in. It always happens kind of mid-season. You always see an
But this is
unranked
early
team
though.
kind of,
This isn't mid. This is early though.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, not mid, but there's always with the upper ranking teams. There's always a game you'll see kind of either
Yeah.
early on or maybe mid that
Yeah.
they'll
No.
struggle in. So this might be that game for Georgia. Obviously, it did drop them down a spot. I mean, obviously not out of the picture here, but uh, I don't think it was a bad job on Georgia. I mean, just miscues, of course. I saw a couple of the highlights, so I don't think. I mean, obviously, if they would have lost, that'd have been a big upset, of course. And then who knows what happened to Georgia after that? But they ended up taking care of business. So, I mean, I guess we'll see as the season continues. But I don't think this does much affect to Georgia. I just think it was a bad game for them.
Yeah, I mean it didn't look good for the Bulldogs, that's for sure,
Yeah,
and especially after that game against Kent State, where Kent State seemed to be hanging in there a little bit. I don't know. I'm
yeah.
getting kind of concerned that Georgia could drop at least one game besides Alabama this season. It's completely possible now in my mind. I'm completely
Okay,
up to the prediction of they're gonna probably have two losses at the end of the season.
okay.
Before I mean, even maybe heading into the SEC championship to lose for a third time. I mean,
Wow.
that's what I'm looking at right now. Like that's what this says to me. It says the defense isn't as good as we think it
Yeah,
is, and that Oregon played really fucking bad week one. Which as you said, it happens. Good teams have bad games, and it's better for
yeah.
Oregon to have that bad game then than it is,
Right,
like you said, middle of the season where some of these teams end up losing. Which you're right. Most of those
right.
games happen in the middle of the season, but this one didn't. Is what I was just saying was you're right. But this one happened,
Yeah,
week five. Like you're already, and after coming off of that win against Kent State, I was like, well, they really need to make a statement here and beat the shit out of Missouri, and they couldn't do it,
right.
and that kind of concerned me. And Stetson Bennett, once he got those tight ends taken away from him, he didn't know where to throw the football. He's such a
Yeah,
tight end focused quarterback. He likes to use those hashes and those 5 yard outs from the tight ends and just kind of dink and dunk. He's not a deep
yeah.
ball guy. So I mean, you have all that going for you if you're Missouri. And once they shut that down, it was like he had nowhere to go. So unless they fix that, other teams are going to do that. And once again, Bennett's going to be forced to do stuff he may not be comfortable with, and the coaches may know that. And the coaches may be going right now, we're fucked. Like if we
Yeah.
play, we are in trouble because they found out what the problem is, and people are gonna try to exploit it every single week now from this point to the end of the season. Um,
Most definitely.
and so unless he can learn to focus on receivers and get the ball out, then Georgia's going to have problems, and that's why I think they could have three losses by the end of the year and miss the college football playoff. We'll get into that later, but I really think that this is what this screams to me is
I can see it.
they're just not the team to repeat.
I can see it. I got Georgia holding on, but I can see what you're saying. I definitely I can see Georgia having an upset loss, and then of course losing to Alabama, of course.
Yeah, I mean, and anybody could lose to Alabama, but let's get into that because big development there. Bryce Young's throwing shoulder, that injury, it looks like
Ooh,
he might be out this week as well. And they, but they beat your Arkansas Razorbacks by 23 points, still 49-26.
okay,
The backup quarterback is a freshman, looked pretty good. Milroy, I think is his last name. He looked pretty good. Good little quarterback there. Alabama improves to 5-0 and kind of took care of business against Arkansas. And I was kind of shocked that even without Bryce Young, that team was able to still score 21 points in that second half.
that's impressive. Freshman quarterback, true freshman, or he just
Yeah,
had
I
redshirted?
don't know if
Okay,
he's true freshman. Doesn't say on his profile whether it's true freshman, but he was definitely. I mean, Bryce Young only threw 7 passes and still accumulated 173 yards and a touchdown though
oh
before he
well.
got hurt, and
So is
so
yeah,
still, that's a still pretty good performance for a game where you missed like 3 out of the 4 quarters for him.
no, definitely. And then is that just a weak projection for him to be out, or is that kind of
I don't know enough. I
okay,
have to look, but as far as we know, it doesn't look good for Bryce
right?
Young, and it might take a week. But this may be the week to not have him. And we'll get into that
Yeah,
as we look at next week's games. Ohio State took care of Rutgers 49-10. Not really much to take away there. Rutgers is terrible. Michigan took care of Iowa, the team that can't score, and they beat them 27-14. To stay unbeaten, good for Michigan, but I didn't really learn anything from that game either. Uh,
yeah,
let's move on to the Clemson NC State game. I mean, Clemson beats North Carolina State 30-20. They were in control for most of this game. They had a 3-point lead at halftime, 13-10, and then outscored NC State 17-10 in that second half. Just not a lot of scoring, and I kind of expected that from this Clemson team. They haven't been a great offense all season long, really. The most points they put up was last week with 51, and they needed overtime, multiple overtimes for that. So, I just I NC State's bad. I don't know what do you take away from this because I don't really think we really
yeah.
learned much from either team, really.
Yeah, I mean, from what I was watching, they were looking real shaky. Clemson was looking real shaky first quarter. They're only putting up 3 points.
Yeah.
So uh, I just don't know come crunch time. I mean, they had that battle against Wake Forest, of course, and ended up taking care of NC State. But I don't. I think Clemson's fraud. I don't think come crunch time against a good team other than anybody in the ACC that Clemson can get it done scoring wise. So I think they're a fraud. I don't think they're I think they're a top 10 team right now, but I think end of the season we see Clemson fall out into the teens for sure.
Ooh, okay. I like it. I like it. I
Yeah.
mean, they still got that game against Notre Dame, and if they play in the ACC championship, I think they'll have to play either North Carolina or Pitt. So I mean, they're not
Yeah.
going to get an easy matchup. So that'll be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out. But I kind of agree. I think that this is again a team you could see heading into their championship game for their conference with maybe a loss. I mean, and
Yeah.
that loss is going to come late because that Notre Dame game isn't until like November 5th. So they lose
Right.
that game. I mean, you probably don't look at much of a chance of climbing back in the conversation for the CFP. So I think you're right. This team is probably not, great. I think they're better than most teams. I just don't think they're good enough to hang with an Alabama or a Georgia. Even if Georgia's struggling, I still would pick them over Clemson in a heartbeat. Um,
Definitely.
and let's move on to kind of a later game. USC took care of Arizona State 42-25, but this game was really close heading into the fourth quarter. Um, uh, USC was losing heading into the fourth quarter, so I mean you have to look at that as well, not losing, but they were definitely getting hunted down by Arizona
Yeah.
State most of that game, and that kind of concerned me because again, Arizona State doesn't have their head coach Herm Edwards dismissed, literally walking off the field the week before that as they lost to I believe Eastern Michigan or something terrible, um, and USC just looked average to me against a defense that isn't very good. OSU played this team, and I think played Arizona State better than USC played Arizona State. Um, I just didn't get much of a takeaway other than Caleb Williams is insane. Some of the plays he made were Johnny Manziel esque, just like how does he do that? Like why would you do that? Like I mean, it's just those kind of plays where you're like it's stupid, but because you pulled it off, it looks incredible.
Yeah,
And that was kind of the only takeaway from this game. Your thoughts?
yeah, I agree for sure. Another team that's looking shaky, USC. I mean, they are getting it done, of course, but only not by too much to any good teams, really. So, I mean, we'll see as the season continues. But I mean, Caleb Williams continues to get it done on offense for them week in and week out. So, should be good for them.
Yeah, I mean a win's a win, but I think some of these games coming up are going to be a little bit rough for USC fans. That defense is just not very good. Um, the secondary kind of lacks for USC. So if you can pass the football, you're going to give yourself a chance. And
I'd love to see Clemson USC. That'd be a good one.
I think so. I think those teams like you are probably on the same tier as far as like a
Yeah,
tier list would go. I think they're the same tier. So I think that would be a very entertaining game, and I would watch that game, and I would thoroughly be
definitely,
entertained by whoever won that game. Um,
definitely.
just have fun playing in Cotton Bowl or some shit. You know, what I mean, like
Yeah, I could see that. I could see Clemson USC being a bowl game at the end of the year
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
it needs to be if those teams are
Yeah.
lined up, the way they need to be.
Maybe the Rose Bowl, maybe I believe.
I think they're using
Would
that
be
for the CFP though, so I don't know if you can use
oh,
that
they are.
that
Oh,
site.
okay.
I don't know, but I think that's why they don't use those anymore. But I could be wrong. Another game, another top 10 team that kind of lost was Kentucky. They lose to Ole Miss, 19-22. The Rebels get it done. They improved to 5-0, and Ole Miss looking a little better than people thought. Jackson Dart throwing the
Yeah.
ball around for them. We know OU tried to bring him in along with Casey Thompson, and he said, "No, I'm going to Ole Miss instead." And I mean, you got Dylan Gabriel. You don't need me. Let's see how well that pans out the rest of the year for the Sooners. But as far as this game's concerned, big takeaway here was just Kentucky not being able to get it done offensively. Just not a lot of
Yeah.
points for the Wildcats, and Mark Stoops drops one here early. What are your takeaways from this game?
Man, I was disappointed in specifically Mark Stoops. I mean, why are we passing the ball that close to the end zone in the red zone, I believe, that late in the game? I mean, they only needed a field goal to tie it up, so why are we not running the ball and running the clock out? They ended up turning the ball over on a pass play on the last play. I just don't understand why we are passing that late and in the red zone. I mean, they did score the play previous, and it got called back
Yep.
due to a false start. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like that coaching call. I mean, he ultimately there's an offensive coordinator, but that comes down to him in the final moments like that. It always falls on the head coach. So I
Yeah.
don't know why the ball is being dropped back, and I don't know why we're throwing. They should have ran, and if they don't get any breakaways, kick the field goal, go to OT. I mean, it was a close game all game long. So I don't know why uh, they didn't just run it and send it to OT like that. So I mean, Old Miss obviously looking better than we expected. So
Yeah.
uh, shout out to Old Miss, but Kentucky definitely a tough loss here.
Yeah. Yeah. They sw- Scott. Sorry. They scored the touchdown, and then, like you said, gets called back, and then the next play they fumbled it, and Ole Miss recovered it, and that's how that game ended. So, I mean, yeah, kind of interesting development there. Let's move on to another team that I think is kind of a fraud. Penn State. 11th in the country. They only beat Northwestern by 10 points, 17-7. Um, they're gonna get smacked around by Ohio State. They could get smacked around by probably Michigan as well if they have to play either of those teams. Really,
I
they
think
just
so.
they just don't look very good. I mean, winning this game doesn't mean much to me. I mean,
Yeah,
um, Northwestern is just not good, so not much takeaway there. Um,
yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Not much takeaway. Penn State pick it up.
yeah, so I expect them to be in like the 20s by the end of the season. I think they're going to lose a couple, but so far 5-0 and creeping in on the top 10 as of last week was Penn State. So, and then Utah They demolished Oregon State 42-16. That game
Oh,
was never close. The Beavers kind of off of that emotional loss last week to USC couldn't hack it. They lose that game. Um, Another kind of big shock: unranked Mississippi State took down 17th ranked Texas A&M 42-24. Mike Leach gets a much needed win at home. Mississippi State, I believe, is now ranked. We'll get into that in a minute. But Texas A&M looks like they found their way out of top 25 completely. So
yeah,
just a bad loss, Texas A&M, and a good win for Mississippi State.
definitely. I'm not sure what is going on with the Aggies. Just a disappointing season, and is this on the head coach? I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Okay,
think
perfect.
I think Jimbo's in trouble. Um,
Definitely.
that's for sure. Um, but again, they can beat an Alabama or they can beat, you know, somebody big. It'll probably save him for another season, but as of this year, I mean, fall from grace
Yeah.
from top 10 preseason ranking to this. So disappointment there.
Goodbye, Jim. Goodbye, Jimbo.
Yeah. A couple other games. Wake Forest beat Florida State 31-21. That was a ranked matchup. Good win for Wake Forest, but I think that was a game we both had Wake winning pretty
Yeah.
easily, and they did. Purdue upset Minnesota. People were really high on PJ Fleck and the Gophers after they put up a bunch of points last week. They only put up 10 this week, and Purdue upsets them 20-10. Um, Georgia Tech upsets number 24 last week, number 24 Pittsburgh 26-21, and Kansas State beats Texas Tech 37-28. That kind of rounded out all the top 25 action from last week. So good games. Any other takeaways from this last week?
I think that wraps it all up. I mean, yeah, that wraps it all up there.
All right, so let's take a look at the games this upcoming week here. Yeah, not a lot on your Thursday, Friday matchups to really look at. So let's just go ahead and skip the Saturday. Look, this was a week of weeks. This last week, but now we have big games coming up for a lot of teams, and it's kind of put up or shut up time for a lot of these ranked teams that are kind of on the cusp. So starting off the day, you have Michigan and Indiana. That game's not going to be close. Indiana's a fucking dumpster fire. It's just bad. Like they're just so bad. So I mean, if they hang in there, I mean, I just don't know. Michigan kind of still scares me as a team that's like fake good. You know, like it's like they haven't done
Yeah.
anything to really be like, oh, they're fucking god awful, but they're just not playing dominant enough football offensively for me to be like, yeah, they can hang with Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Like they just don't give me
Yeah.
that vibe. Or like even Ohio
Yeah.
State. Ohio State's gonna fucking wreck them this year. I mean, at least
Yeah.
from right now, from my perspective, there's no chance, none.
I was just gonna say, I got Ohio State beating them by at least 2, 3 touchdowns in that final game this season for the Wolverines.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that's probably gonna be the case. So not really much to do at 11 a.m. With that one. Number 8 now ranked Tennessee plays number 25 ranked now LSU. So that's a ranked matchup that wouldn't have been last week for LSU as they are on the board now, back in the top 25. What are your thoughts on this one?
I like Tennessee here. I think it is going to be a good game. A little closer than I think. But I got Tennessee winning here.
Yeah, it's um it's gonna be the Volunteers. I think Tennessee probably rolls with this one.
Okay.
And then moving on to another 11 o'clock game. Number 17 now, ranked TCU is going to be playing number 19 ranked Kansas. The Kansas Jayhawks finally ranked in the top
I love this
25.
game
Game is in Lawrence at 11 a.m. on Fox
Woo!
Sports 1. Give me give me a breakdown while I go get some water.
For sure. Hey, I love it. The 19th Jayhawks and then TCU coming off that big win against Oklahoma. Um, it's gonna be a good one. I think this is gonna be a very close game. Two very powerful offenses that can score, and two defense that are not looking too bad here. So I got this very close here. I gotta say that I've been saying it all podcast long. Go Jayhawks, and I'm rolling with the Jayhawks this season. So, uh, no discredit to the Horned Frogs. I mean, they're definitely a solid program, but I really like K State here, or Kansas here in this game.
Yeah, I look. I like Kansas. I really do. But I think this TCU defense is probably going to be one of the toughest they've played all season. And it kind of concerns
Yeah,
me after they only put up 14 points last week against Iowa State. I
yeah,
just, I mean, sure, they won the game 14-11, but I mean, in some games, like you say, you have to win ugly when you're a
yeah.
good team, even when it may not feel right. Yeah, I got, I got my eyes set on this one. We'll definitely be locked in um, at 11 a.m. to watch this game. Um,
Definitely.
I think that it's going to be a game where it could be back and forth the whole way. But at the same time, TCU offense, man, if
Yeah,
Kansas's defense is mid, and I mean, we haven't really talked about how bad OU's defense could be. But it, even if they're a little better than OU's defense, which shouldn't be hard. Um,
yeah.
I mean, you're definitely holding TCU under 55 points this week if you're Kansas. I can guarantee you that. But I like TCU here in this spot. I really do.
Okay,
I
okay.
like the
Fair
Horned
enough.
Frogs. I like the way Max Duggan is playing. I like their wide receiving core. I think it's pretty good. The offense is very inconsistent though, and that could play into Kansas's advantage. This game is probably a pick 'em for me. I can't. I wouldn't touch this if I were a betting man. I
Yeah,
just think that this is one of those games where it could go either way, and I would not be shocked at all.
yeah. I'd like this game. I'm definitely gonna have eyes on this one for sure. TCU obviously that big win last week. So I mean, just having that momentum carrying to this week is huge. I like your pick here. I think they do. I just can't go. I can't go against them. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been going with the Jayhawks. I can't go against the Jayhawks. Go Jayhawks. I've been saying it ever since the 3-0 and the Duke win. So I mean, I'm going with Jayhawks here.
And I don't blame you for that. I think I think that most people would are riding the Kansas high. So I don't I don't hate it, and I wouldn't be surprised they they pull it out. Um,
I like it in Lawrence too. I think that
oh
gives them
yeah,
an advantage.
yeah. Oh, for sure, the place is gonna be packed.
Yeah.
So next game on the slate, another 11 a.m. game is Arkansas versus now 23 ranked Mississippi State. So of course Mississippi State beat Texas A&M last weekend. Now they're ranked. Um, Arkansas falls out of the rankings after they lose to Alabama by 20 plus points from 20 to out of the rankings completely. Um, I still like Arkansas in this game, and I'm going Woo Pig Sooie straight up.
Okay. I like that pick. I'm gonna agree with you on this one.
Yeah, so I mean, not really much to look at there. Now, this game is not going to be talked about a lot, and this is probably the first year it won't be, but OU Texas, 11 a.m. kick on ABC. I'll be bringing that game live on Twitch. Play by play if you want to listen to that, twitch.tv/ST0NERGAMER. Um, I, I mean, Quinn Ewers apparently is going to be back for this game. He's going to at least try to go. OU coming off that devastating loss, they need something positive. But to be honest, I don't know which way this game is going to go.
Okay. Is Gabriel back?
I believe he should be. Yeah, I mean, we'll know more by Wednesday of this week, but I think that I think he should be fine. It looked like bad enough for like, yeah, he's not coming back for this game, but it didn't look
Yeah.
like it was bad enough to where like, oh, he's missing a week of action here. So I think we'll see Dylan Gabriel at quarterback this weekend.
Yeah, it's with those big concussion protocols nowadays. They just like to sit players, for like 1, 2 weeks. But definitely with that jumping over to NFL briefly with that Tua story. I mean, I feel like that might play into this, and we could see Gabriel out. I mean, I don't really know. I haven't had heard anything yet about it, so I like Texas either way on this one. I got it close, but I like Texas with Ewers back. I like Texas by a touchdown here.
Yeah, I like him by more than that. I just don't know who in the secondary is going to keep up with Xavier Worthy. That wide
Yeah,
receiver is a track star, and the way these corners and safeties are getting burned for OU, there's just no way they're going to cover him the whole entire 4 quarters. I just don't see it happening. And like you said, if Quinn Ewers is back as well and he's playing as well as he did that first quarter against Alabama, I mean they could be up once again like they were last year by 21 points quickly. And
yeah.
you know, we know the heroics that happened last year with Caleb Williams, but he's not here to save you. Superman's not here. He's out in Southern
Superman's in
California.
LA.
Yeah, he's in LA. So you got to hope that Dylan Gabriel can be that guy offensively and hope that you can just kind of keep up because I think this is going to be one of those games where the offense is just going to have to keep responding, keep responding, keep responding. You got to hit Marvin Mims when he's open. You can't keep overthrowing these receivers if you're Dylan Gabriel to give OU a chance. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but that's kind of our takes on the game so far. Going down the list a little bit further, I wouldn't say this is really a game Georgia's playing Auburn, but the way that Auburn beat Missouri and the way Missouri
Never
hung
know.
with Georgia, is Auburn going to hang around with Georgia? I mean, it's just the transitive property bullshit. I mean, you could say that this looks like a game where Auburn could upset them, but it's in Athens. It's not a home game for Auburn, so I think that Georgia gets the edge here, and I think they take care of business.
Yeah, I like Georgia here as well. I don't think Auburn has enough firepower to get it done versus with Georgia here. So I got Georgia.
All right. Oklahoma State plays Texas Tech. Of course, Texas Tech beat Texas and then lost to K State last weekend. Oklahoma State beat Baylor. We talked about that. They are now up to number 7 in the country. This game is at Boone Pickens Stadium, so Texas has to travel. I think Oklahoma State should win this game. Their defense should play good enough to stop Smith and that offense for Texas Tech, but they've given some teams trouble. I don't know how bad Texas is still. I mean, they beat West Virginia last week 35-7. So they looked good offensively with Hudson Card back there at quarterback. If he has to come in relief of Quinn Ewers, if he's not ready this weekend, I don't know if I would still not pick Texas to win this game. But when you look at that and the way that Texas Tech beat Texas, should OSU be worried at all about this game?
I say a little bit. I mean, they do have to play a good game still. I mean, Texas Tech isn't just anybody you're going to roll over, as you've seen so far in the season. But I definitely think the Cowboys still get it done here. I like how Mike Gundy has a team right now, and I think he's going to continue to have everybody on their toes still, and everybody's still going to be playing hard.
All right, so moving on down the list. Okay, here's kind of a big one for me. On Fox at 2:30 Central Time. Number 18 now, ranked UCLA is going to play number 11 Utah. This game is actually a home game for the Bruins, so the Utes are going to have to
Ooh.
travel. And I kind of like UCLA in this spot. What are your thoughts?
It's going to be a good one for sure. Definitely with that last week from UCLA, their offense is rolling right now. So I like this one. It's tough to say though. I mean, Utah with that big win last week against Oregon State. So I
Yeah.
mean, uh, it's tough to say. I like Utah here, even with them traveling. I just think Utah's just a better team overall. But I like UCLA scoring a lot here too. So I mean, I definitely have Utah winning it, but I don't think UCLA is going to be too far behind.
Yeah, so you're thinking like both teams probably in the 30s scoring wise, and Utah probably pulls it out. Is that what you're talking about? Something like that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. But I just have it going the other way. I think as well. It's gonna be a lot of points. We know that Utah kind of struggles with mobile quarterbacks. If you look back at that Florida game, that everyone was so excited about Florida afterwards. But I mean, like it's just it, and you know that the
Yeah, he
quarterback.
had to hate on the Gators today. He had to.
Something has to be consistent here. And you know that Dorian Thompson Robinson, he can run. So I mean, I think that that'll be a problem for Utah. And if Chip Kelly can utilize his mobile quarterback the way that Florida did, and that defense for UCLA stops, this Utah offense multiple times, they could be looking pretty good. But I think that's definitely going to be a game that you're going to want to pay attention to if you're watching football on Saturday, no doubt. Let's
It's a
move
good one.
on down the list here of games going on. Ohio State plays Michigan State. I'm not even going to acknowledge the Spartans. They've let me down 3 weeks in a row. I'm not picking them for me. I'm done. They're bad. Ole Miss plays Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's bad. Washington falls to 21 after that loss to UCLA. They'll be at Arizona State. I don't know about the Sun Devils. They're kind of a wild card. Is Washington going to be able to rebound after this? I kind of like this game as being entertaining as well. It's on the Pac-12 network, so not a lot of people are going to get to watch it in our area. But I think this game could be a lot closer than people think. But not really much to say about that. Clemson plays Boston College. Look, Boston College had a whale of a game this last week. They barely pulled it off in the waning seconds to beat. Is it Indiana? I think Indiana or yeah, it was Indiana, I believe. So they're not great, but Clemson's not great, and I believe Boston College does have what it takes offensively to score on Clemson's defense. So this game can be a little close, but I don't know what you think about the matchup. It might be bad.
I mean, I don't see Boston College getting it done versus
No.
Clemson, but I do have Clemson losing at least one game this season in the ACC. This might be the one though. So, like you're saying, they did have a good game last week. So I don't think Boston College is that guy, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can hang in there. If you let Boston College hang around, I just don't know how much of a threat you're going to be with the way the schedule has looked for Clemson. Like, it just looks like they play mediocre against mediocre teams. So I just feel like even if they do win this game, if they win it by less than 10 points, I think that the voters will still be unimpressed with Clemson. Your thoughts?
Definitely, I agree with that. We should see. I mean, Clemson should definitely put a lot on the board this game. So
Yeah, it's opportunity. Now, this is the next game I'm going to give you. This is my upset pick of the week. It's going to be one of my locks of the week. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I've got the Washington State Cougars beating number 6 USC on the road in
Woo!
the Coliseum. So
Wow.
that is my pick. They gave my Ducks a scare. I think that offense is for real. I think they are out for blood. I think they're out to prove they won't choke this one away. I am picking the
Wow.
Washington State Cougars to win this game straight up. And if they lose, they lose. But I this is it for me. Like, I think this is the first test that USC is going to get this season where I feel like the team can hang around legitimately.
Very bold, Cotton. Very bold. Um, you say this is a away game for Washington State?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. That yes. Wow. You went there. I'm not sure. I like USC here, so we should see. But I mean, hey, you could be right.
um but yeah, that's one of the games that's going on at like 6:30 on Fox. I think it'll be a good game to watch. Kentucky plays South Carolina and Spencer Rattler. I think that game could be good. I don't think Kentucky's that great, and I think Spencer Rattler and that offense are kind of finding their groove. So I feel like it could be a shootout, but I think Kentucky gets it done. In the end, Wake Forest plays Army. Chalk that up as a win for the Demon Deacons. Army's fucking god awful. BYU plays Notre Dame at 6:30. BYU still ranked 16th in the country. This could be the game where if Notre Dame wins this, my pot of gold that I have stashed could be shoved more in their favor when they play Clemson. This is my measuring stick. What is your thought?
Definitely. I mean, we weren't really sure what Notre Dame team we were getting this season, but definitely if they pull this one out, and they should have the cards for Clemson for sure.
Yeah, I think this is a confidence game for Notre Dame, and they can get it done against the Mormons. I think it'll be a good building block for what's to come later on in their schedule. Uh, as I said, Jimbo's trying to save his job. This is the week, right? You play Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Texas A&M, and number one Alabama. Is Jimbo gonna save his job this week, Cole? Or are we looking at a at a at a at, at a really bad Texas A&M team getting smacked this weekend?
I got him getting smacked. I say, pack your bags, Jimbo. Hey, there's a quarterback in Nebraska that needs a friend. So there's a coach and Nebraska needs a friend. So I mean, I think Jimbo's exiting for sure, but I think they get rolled by Bama.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't look good against Mississippi State. It's not going to look much better against Alabama. But if Alabama is without Bryce Young, you might have a chance. We'll know more about that as the week progresses as well. Of course, we are doing this on a Monday, so we don't really know much. um, and then moving on to another game later in the evening.
I was talking about your friend Scott Frost, by
Oh
the way.
yeah, yeah.
You know, I
He's
was
hey Jimbo to Nebraska. Let's get the campaign going. They
yeah.
Nebraska needs a head coach. Get Jimbo up there. He'll fix it up. You'll have the best team money can buy up there in Lincoln. Um, in the next game on the list, Florida State at NC State. NC State only drops to 14 after losing to Clemson, so they only drop uh, 4 spots, I think. So I mean, not a
Man, they're getting
bad
some
drop.
love.
Yeah,
NC State is getting some love.
and only because Clemson is ranked so high. I don't think if Clemson was ranked so high, it would be much love. But Florida State's got a shot here, and I'm not even joking. They may have lost to Wake Forest last week, but we know Wake Forest is a good team. And we know that if Wake Forest played NC State, I'm picking Wake Forest. So why would I not pick Florida State? I just think the Seminoles have what it takes to hang around with NC State. They don't look like Devin Leary did not look like the quarterback that people said he was going to be heading into this season against Clemson. And I think that Florida State's got the athletes to hang around. So, I mean, I like Florida State in this one, even though they're not ranked.
I like your pick here. I could see them definitely getting it done, but I'm gonna go with NC State. I just think they're having that game that lost last week, so I think they should pick it up this week for sure.
All right. Last game of the night, really. Number 12, Oregon playing at Arizona. Arizona's a bad team. Oregon should take care of business.
I hope so.
And if they don't, I'm going to lose my mind. But that kind of wraps it up. I mean, Oregon State plays Stanford really late. I think that game could be like a good game, like score wise, but there's no playoff implications here. No, I mean for the Pac-12 it might matter a little bit, but right now it's not looking like this game really means much, and that kind of wraps up this upcoming week. So let's move the goal post along here. Heisman update. The Heisman update of the stream is coming at you now. And as you take a look at what we got going on with our Heisman lists, it looks like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but going into this last week, you had Bryce Young at number 1, CJ at number 2, Caleb Williams at number 3, Ohio State's running back Henderson at number 4, and Spencer Sanders wrapping it up at number 5. I still had CJ at my 1, Bryce Young at my 2, Sam Hartman as my 3, Caleb Williams as my 4, and Spencer Sanders as my 5. We'll see if we can get Cole Murphy back on the show. Cole, if you can hear me, any changes?
Hey, I'm just checking out these Heisman way too early projections. Yeah, I like where I'm still at. I'm just gonna move. Uh, Only thing is I'm gonna move Spencer Sanders up and then my 4 down.
Okay, so now it's Young for you, CJ Stroud at the 2 spot, Caleb Williams at 3, Spencer Sanders at the 4 spot, and Henderson at the 5 spot.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I'm doing the same thing, but that means that Caleb Williams is at the bottom for me instead of Spencer Sanders. I still have Sam Hartman above both of them, the Wake Forest quarterback. I really liked the way he looked this weekend. I think he's just got the numbers to do it. That's the thing, is I think he's got the numbers to at least be considered. He's not gonna win it, but I think he'll be invited. And I think just the way Caleb played last week, I mean, it wasn't terrible. I'm not saying that. I just think that, and he had Heisman moments. Those completions that were crazy, that the Houdini run up the middle after he looked like he was going to be almost sacked. I mean, spinning away from a defender that's draped all over him, or for some goddamn reason let go. I mean, it just, he has those highlight plays that the Heisman Trophy, foundation wants to be putting in their highlight reel for the trophy every year. So he's got that going for him. But if what I think happens to USC happens, which is they lose 2 or 3 games this season, I don't know if he wins it. But he sure
Yeah,
as hell is going to be invited. Um, but I just, I think if Sam Hartman wins a couple more games and Wake Forest looks pretty good, um, even with that loss to Clemson, I still think he might get an invite. But he's barely hanging on to that 3 spot for me. But he's still there because he hasn't done anything in my mind to move him. And logically, it just wouldn't make sense. So I'm going to keep him there for now. Um, but
fair
I
enough.
mean, we'll just see what happens. It'll probably change quicker than we think. But so be it. Um, all right, it's time. Let's take a trip to our favorite place to go hang out, the St0ner Sportsbook. We'll recap how it went. If you parlayed the picks, you were done early because we both picked OU to beat TCU. So quit parlaying our picks. Quit doing that. It won't end up good for you. Um, but we did have some good developments here. Take a look and see here. You picked Baylor, so you lost $30 there. You came in with 280. You had lost $100 last week to go back to 180. But remember, we add $100 on every week, so you're
Every
working
week,
off
yep.
a 280. So we'll see how you are here. We haven't added your $100 yet, but we'll see where you're at here. I'm gonna take this and move it over here, and we'll. So picks wise, you picked Baylor to win. You didn't get that one. Oklahoma State gets the win, so you lose $30 there down to 250. You picked Kentucky to cover against Ole Miss. They did. They only lost by 3, and they were
Yeah,
underdogs by 7. So you got that one done. So you save 50 there. You're still at 250. You picked Wake Forest to beat Florida State by 7. They got it done by 10. You had 25 on that, so you save that as well. So you're still sitting pretty at 250. Bama and Arkansas, you had Bama minus the 17.5. Got that done, so you save $100 there. And
woo.
your Woo Pig Suey's got their you know what kicked in, and so you're still at 250. You picked NC State, or you picked Clemson to beat NC State by 6.5. They won by 10, so you got that one done. They're still standing at 250. And then you lost 50 with the OU Texas, so you're at 200. So you lost $80. Go ahead and mark that down. So you're at 200. You add the 100 on that we normally add, and you went 4-2. So that puts you at 13-10 on the year for individual picks. I am
Bad.
also went 4-2 because I did pick Oklahoma State to win, but I did pick Arkansas to cover, which I lost, and I did pick OU to cover, which I lost. Everything else was right, so I go 4-2 as well. So I moved to 14-9. So still only a 1 game difference between us going into week 7. Um,
Not bad.
so you're still making money if you're picking our picks individually. Just don't parlay them because it's not working out. If we were doing 4 game parlays, we might have a chance, but we like to stretch it to 5 because we hate ourselves. But so I lost. Let's see, I lost 25 on the OU game, and I lost 50, so I lost $75. I had 230 going in, so that's 45 minus 200. That is $155. So I have 255 going on to this week. Go ahead and this over. Um, I have 155 less the 100, so I have 255 going into this week. And you, my friend, have
300.
$300 going in to this
Go.
week. So lots of lots of money to spend here. So got 5 games on the board here.
Of course, we got to throw that OU Texas in there. It's a staple. It's a standard.
Yeah, it's a standard for sure. So we'll put that game in there. That'll be the first game we have, and Texas is a 7-point favorite. Um,
Oh, I like that. It's perfect. I like
um,
them to cover.
and you are gonna pick them to cover. How much money are we putting on that one out of the 3?
Ooh. let's let's put 50.
50. Okay, so we're gonna put
Yeah,
50 on that one. Um, I also like Texas -7 here. I'm gonna put 50 big ones on that as well. Um, so that's both of us picking Texas there with $50 off the board already. Okay. Um, what game are we looking at next here? We've got
check it out here.
Utah and UCLA. Um, that's ranked. The Georgia Auburn game. Uh, Georgia is favored by 29.5. That's a big hole to cover.
Of course, we have to throw that TCU Kansas game in there.
Yeah, we'll throw TCU Kansas in there. That'll be um and then we have Tennessee LSU if you want to do that game as well.
I like that one as well.
Okay, so let's do TCU and Kansas first. So TCU KU, it looks like TCU is a 7 point favorite here. So are you picking
Okay.
you're picking Kansas? I take it.
Yeah, I got Kansas. So I got would it be Kansas +7?
Yep, Kansas +7. Um, how much money you putting on that one? Yeah, 250 to work with.
50. And then four. We can do 50.
Okay, we'll do 50 on that one as well. All right, and you know what? I like TCU -7 here. I know you want KU +7, but I'm picking TCU minus the 7, and I'm gonna put $100 on it because I
Ooh,
I am confident in the
confident.
Horned Frogs. Third game we'll do the Tennessee game.
Perfect.
Tennessee versus LSU. I believe Tennessee is favored by 7 in that one. Let me scroll down here. It is. Oh no, they're favored by 2.5. Tennessee is a 2.5 point favorite.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I got them winning by at least 7 or so. So I
okay.
got them covering.
So you have $200 left. You'll have two games after this. How much are we putting on the
We'll
Tennessee?
do we'll do 75.
75. Okay,
Yeah.
75. All right. Tennessee LSU. I also have Tennessee minus the 2.5. Um, I'm gonna put I'm gonna put 100 on that as well. I'm gonna be left with
Okay.
no, I can't do that. I gotta put 75 on that because that'll leave me with only $5 for two games. So I can't. I'll do 75, and that'll put me um, with $30 left for the last two. So we'll put. I'm just gonna go ahead and put 15 on each of those,
Okay.
even though I don't know what games they are, but that's how much money I gotta spend left. We got 170. We got 125 left for two games. So the next game on the list.
I like that Utah UCLA matchup.
Okay, yeah. Let's look at Utah and UCLA. That is a 4.5 point spread, I think. Here it's go. U C UCLA U C CLA. There it is. Yeah, Utah -4.5.
Okay. I like them to cover.
Okay, how much are we putting on that?
We'll do 50.
15. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that leaves you a 75 on the last game. Okay. All right.
Okay, perfect.
Um. Yeah. I like UCLA here. I think that I think they get the job done. I don't know. I just don't know how good I feel about Utah. And then last game,
I was
what?
gonna say Oklahoma State versus Texas Tech, and I was gonna put the 75 on Oklahoma State.
Okay, so
That's the only really matchup I see that I like.
OSU
I mean,
versus TCU. I was looking at that Georgia Auburn spread just because Georgia's supposed to beat them
okay,
by 30, and I don't know if do you think they can do that or
yeah, yeah,
yeah, you think that'd be a bad choice to take Auburn there.
To hold, and it's away as well. No, I like them by yeah.
Okay, so we'll do the OSU game. So OSU -9. I'll do that as well. Oak State -9.
Oh yeah, they're covering for sure. They're gonna beat Texas Tech.
All right, so that's that. So now next on the list here, um, got top 25 review go over. So rankings wise, we'll just go over a couple things. So AP, of course, Georgia drops to number 2. Ohio State stays at 3. Michigan stays at 4. I really thought Ohio State should be 2 and Georgia should be 3, but they haven't lost, so I kind of understand. And the only difference between 2 and 3 is about 40 votes. So it's
Yeah,
pretty close, and I don't really have much of that. OSU moves up from 9 to Tennessee stays at number 8. Ole Miss moves from 14 all the way to a top 10 team at number 9. So big week for them as they beat Kentucky. Kentucky falls from 7 to 13. Oregon moves up from 13 to 12. Utah and Penn State both move up one spot. Utah at 11, Penn State at 10. So Penn State now a top 10 team. NC State dropped 4 spots, like I said, from 10 to 14. Wake Forest moves up 7 spots from 22 to 15. So I think they're back kind of where they need to be. BYU moved up 3 spots from 19 to 16. And then we had 4 new teams. Or not 4 new teams. 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 new teams in the top 25. LSU at 25, Cincinnati at 24, Mississippi State at 23, Syracuse at 22, and Kansas at 9.
Syracuse.
Kansas at 19, UCLA 18, TCU 17. All those teams were not ranked going into this game. Kansas State moves up after they beat Texas Tech from 25 to 20, and Washington moved from 15 all the way down to 21 after they lost to UCLA. So, I mean, lots of movers and shakers here. Teams that were just on the cusp of getting into the top 25 were Washington State, Baylor, Florida State, and Arkansas. Oklahoma drops all the way to, let's see, 25, 26, 27, 8, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, to 38 in the country after they lose to Texas Tech. So they dropped a lot of spots. I mean, that's 20 spots. 20 spots from 18 to 38.
Yeah.
13 spots away from the top 25. So, not huge takeaways. Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Minnesota, Florida State, and Pittsburgh all fall out of the top 25. And of course, we just gave you the slew of new teams. We'll kind of know how that kind of pans out in the coming week. I don't really have much of a gripe with any of it. So let's move on to some of the topics for discussion. Let's get into it. I'm really ready.
Yeah.
Is OU the worst team in the Big 12? Now, I know that sounds like a lot to say, but they played Texas Christian, and they've played Kansas State. They've lost both of those games. They didn't look good in a whole entire half against Kent State, but we kind of found out Kent State's not really a joke.
Yeah.
They rolled in their other 2 wins against Nebraska and against UTEP. So, I mean, there wasn't really much to take away from those games. Nebraska's not good, so I don't know what that's really supposed to tell you. But, looking at the way that this is all shaking out right now, as far as the standings go right now, in the Big 12, you're looking at a team in OU that's near the bottom here. They're not the very bottom, because guess who is at the bottom? It's West Virginia, and but OU's still there as the bottom 2 teams, which means Iowa State, Texas are above them right now. Kansas leads the Big 12 in the standings right now at 19 in the country, and then Kansas State. And for some reason, Oklahoma State is at the 3rd spot, but that's because they've only played 1 conference game and the other 2 have played 2. So 2 and
Yeah.
0 better than 1 and 0. I got that. TCU also behind Kansas State and Kansas at number 4, and then Texas Tech, Baylor, and are both 1 and 1. As well as Texas, and then Iowa State, Oklahoma, and West Virginia are your only teams without a Big 12 win so far this season. So, I mean, what's kind of your takeaway from this?
I mean, with the topic, I mean, I guess I don't think OSU or OU is the worst team. I think that is West Virginia. I think they have that spot, and I think they will for the rest of the year. But I mean, OSU ranking wise right now is the second worst team in the Big 12. So I mean, very, very embarrassing. Not what we're used to seeing. What the hell is going on? Not sure, but I mean, I think as the season progresses, I think OU pans out more of like a 500 team. I don't think they end up even being uh, the number two worst team in the Big 12. I think that will go to either Iowa State or maybe Texas. But I guess we'll see as the season continues. But yeah, very embarrassing year for the Sooners so far. So hopefully they can pick it up.
Yeah, not looking good for the Sooners. It just it goes back to the safeties are playing bad. They're blown coverages. I mean, I think TCU had 4 or 5 touchdowns of 50 yards or more in that game last week. Everything was clicking for the Horned Frogs. They just don't look good. You're right. They look bad. And I think OU fans are not ready for the conversation that OU might be the worst defensive team in the Big 12
Oh
right now, even though they haven't
yeah,
given up.
definitely.
I mean, they've only given up 6 less points this season uh, than West Virginia. So you're not really looking at a team that's stopping anybody defensively. The team that's given up the least amount of points, which will kind of shock you, is Iowa State. Um,
Okay,
they've only allowed 130 points so far throughout the season. Um, just to give you an idea, the second best defense according to these numbers is Kansas State, which I think
okay,
is commendable, and then it goes Texas Tech, Baylor, and then Oklahoma State, um, and Kansas. So I mean, it just as far as points put up throughout the season, it looks as if Iowa State's the best team defensively, which might be why Kansas only scored 14 points last week. If we want to look at that as kind of the measuring stick of well, they didn't blow out Iowa State, so do they deserve to be 19th in the country? I think yes, but it just proves more and more that OU's defense just isn't. They're just not up to snuff this season, and it's disappointing because you have a defensive head coach who is
yeah,
trying to take the time to fix that defense. But at the same time, I mean, if your offense isn't moving the ball and your quarterback keeps throwing it 5 yards over your receivers' heads, I mean, your defense is going to be on the field a lot. They're going to get tired, and there's going to be some mental strain there. Should there be enough mental strain where guys are running wide open with no one around them? No. But it's fair to say that if your defense is on the field more than your offense in games, you're not going to do well.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, yeah,
yeah.
not at all.
So I guess that kind of covers this topic. I mean, they're not the worst, but they are close enough to the worst. And if they lose this week, they're definitely still going to be at the bottom. So
Oh yeah,
big game for them this weekend as they look to take on Texas. Now to talk about Clemson. Clemson wins by 10 against NC State 30-20. But you had the question: are they frauds? And if you look at the way
I think so.
that the season is gone for them. They've won all their games. Um, they look like a decent team. Um, I don't know of anybody that's just clamoring to play Clemson because I think they know of what they could do. But these next couple weeks are going to be big for them. Uh, they've got a lot of teams that could you know cut them short of their goal. Now they don't play Notre Dame this year. Oh yeah, they do. I'm sorry. Yeah, November 5th. That's the big game for them is Notre Dame. But they do play Syracuse and Florida State after this week when they play Boston College. So I think Syracuse could give them a game. Syracuse 5-0, 22 in the country. They've got some growing to do, but they look like they're not a slouch. Florida State was ranked multiple times this season. They're not terrible. Um, and Notre Dame may not be ranked But they're playing. I mean, they could show up any week. So, I mean, how many losses are we looking at for this Clemson team realistically?
Two,
Two.
or yeah, probably. I think two.
All right. I mean, I
I
yeah.
think they lose. I think they lose one in the regular season, and then I think they might win the ACC, but I think they lose their bowl game.
Okay, so you're saying they lose one game the rest of the year, whether it be Syracuse, Notre Dame, Florida State, or Miami, right? I mean, like those are
Yeah,
kind of your only hopes, right?
yeah.
And then you got to play um, you got to play the ACC championship game, which if you look at the ACC right now, it looks like who they would be playing is the Duke Blue Devils right now.
Ooh,
But North Carolina's hot on their heels right behind them. Both of those teams are 1-0 in conference, so it could come down to the Duke North Carolina game to decide who goes and plays Clemson for the ACC. Georgia Tech is 1-1, and so is Virginia Tech. So those teams as well. Pitt 0-1 right now, but they could find their footing and jump all these teams if everything goes this way. Um, but Clemson's 3-0 in conference games. They've had three of them, whereas the other side of the conference has only had the max two games in conference. So a lot of catch up to be done and a lot of stuff to still figure out as far as conference standings go, especially in the ACC. But right now, it would be Clemson and Duke, and I think Clemson would win that game. But if it ends up being North Carolina or Pitt, they could have problems, and you could see them, like you said, they're going to win it, but you think they're going to lose their bowl game. I think they could lose in the ACC championship game and win their bowl game. So I kind of have it flip
okay.
flopped. But are they CFP material? No, I don't think so. I think being at number 5 is the right decision now, and if they lose, then they have no shot. And I think that that's good for college football because I think that Clemson's just not up to snuff with being competitive this
No.
season. Um, so yeah, I think they're frauds, but not as fraudulent as Florida. Who is oh they're number 11 in the country, and like look where they are now in the basement, like suck a dick. Like I mean, it's just I mean. I don't think they're that fraudulent where you're like, oh, they're dropping out of the top 25 completely, like Texas A&M, where they're like, oh, number 6 in the country, Jimbo Fisher's
Yeah.
bought the best recruits, and Max Johnson's incredible, and he was so good at LSU that this is gonna be a brand new team and shit like that. Like, nah, dog, uh, that's not happening. Not a shot.
Oh,
So,
at all.
um, I think that they're not even that fraudulent, but they're gonna lose a
Yeah.
couple, and I think that would be acceptable. Um, so let's get into Georgia missing the college football playoff question mark. Look, they haven't done anything to really warrant um, logically dropping out, right? Like they haven't done something so egregious that you're like, oh, they can't be there. They're undefeated. They've beaten everybody they've played. Which would people they've done what you've asked them to do type shit. Like yeah, but look at the games they've got ahead of them and look at the possibilities here. So I'll read you the schedule so far, and you tell me where you're impressed, right? So 49-3, you beat Oregon, right? Impressive, right? Oregon's ranked. They're supposed to be decent. So, people are going, damn. Based on this, Georgia's just about to steamroll everybody, right? At that point, that's what we're thinking. Um, Game number 2, you beat Samford, 33-0, which you should have done. So no one's surprised about that, right? Then you played
Yeah.
South Carolina and beat them 48-7, and Spencer Rattler looked like the trash that he is. And I think that was a better than expected outcome because I think you would look at that game as more like a 20 plus point win, but 41 points is a good win. So you got to
Yeah.
give them that. And then you played Kent State and barely escaped there, 39-22. Even though that's a 17-point win, you should have beat them by 33 like you did Samford in order for me to think that you're still on that level, right? And then you had the 4-point win against Missouri. So tell me where the hell I'm supposed to be impressed. Tell me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Nowhere really.
yeah, like I just I don't know. But listen to this. So they play Auburn this week, which we think that they'll probably take care of business. Look, they're 30-point favorites. I just 30 points to me and beating them when you barely beat Missouri and it's possible. I don't know how bad Auburn is compared to South Carolina. I would need to know that first to really put a gauge on it. Um,
Yeah.
but it could be done, and I'm not going to say anything. Then they play Vanderbilt. They're probably going to roll there. Sorry, Commodore fans. They're just bad. Um, and then but then back to back weeks, the weekend of Halloween, they've got Florida, which as much as I hate Florida, that's going to be one of the most competitive games they probably have up into this
Yeah.
point. And then they've got Tennessee the week after that, and that should be a
Hmm.
good game considering Tennessee's ranked top 10 right now. And then after
Definitely.
that, they've still got Mississippi State and Kentucky. So you've got these 4 weeks in a row from Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi State, and Kentucky, where they're playing teams that could possibly beat them if they play as bad as they played last week. Now, if they don't
Yeah.
play that bad the whole rest of the week, I don't think they have a problem with any of these teams. But I think that
Yeah.
right now, 3 losses, four. I mean, if you play like that, you're at least getting two. Tennessee will rip you to shreds. They're not
Yeah.
Missouri. They've got an offense. They'll rip you to shreds. Kentucky,
Yeah.
Mark Stoops can get it done. I've seen him do it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be shocked that Florida, hey, you beat Utah. Maybe you can beat Georgia. I don't know who the hell would think that, but I mean, they have the athletes to hang, and I don't think that that's
Yeah.
debatable at all. Mississippi State, can Mike Leach do it? That would be his signature win there. It's a home game for the Bulldogs, so you got to go on the road to Starkville. Never easy. Ask Texas A&M. You have to travel to Kentucky, so I think that actually adds a little bit more hope to Kentucky. Yeah, you do have Florida and Tennessee at home, so I mean that could help you out a little bit. But I think that they are going to get tested. These next, sure, these next 2 weeks may seem like cakewalk, but just wait. You know, 6 or 7 weeks down the line, we may be talking about a team in Georgia that's not even in the discussion, and that's legit. I
Yeah.
really do think that they could be out of here if they don't pick up where they started the season off at, outscoring their
True.
opponents. 84, 82 to 3. I mean, it's just they're not that team, and I think that you know
Yeah.
teams are going to keep taking film from this Missouri game and this Kent State game to see what worked for those teams offensively, and they're going to implement it because that's how you coach. You take the worst team, you look at what was successful for them, and you go, "We've got better athletes. So this will be even more successful for us if they don't fix anything. If Georgia
Yeah.
doesn't fix the problems and they can't fix them, then that's even worse." Um, but what are your thoughts on the rest of the road here
Yeah.
for the Bulldogs?
I mean, yeah, I think they end up taking care of business for the rest of the season. I think they do pick it up and get it done. But hey, Stoner Sports, this is the first time you've heard it live as well. This is the first time Will the Thrill have ever talked good on the Florida Gators. So there's that. But yeah, I definitely think Georgia does get it done for the rest of the season. I think they start to pick it up as the season continues.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. This is probably the only time I'll talk good about the Florida Gators. You're probably right, but the thing is I can't deny that they've got SEC level talent. Like if you put Florida in the Big 12 right now, probably a top
Oh
three or
yeah,
four Big 12 team instantaneously. I don't think you can debate that. I think they're probably better than Kansas State, and they could probably be better than Baylor on some weekends. It's just they're so inconsistent, and that's always been my problem these most recent years with Florida. Is they'll have a couple good games, and people be like, "Oh, they're back," and then they're not. It's kind of like
yeah,
Texas, where they were once, really, really good, and it's just kind of the recruiting just hasn't really panned out well for them recently, and the players just haven't been able to translate like they used to, and the allure isn't really there because you've got so many other teams that are now considered more competitive than them. More players want to go to your Alabamas and your Georgias and your Ohio States. Because not only are the NIL deals now better, but even before that, they were just more competitive. And if you wanted to win, that's where you would go as a recruit. So I
yeah,
mean, I think that just the amount of losing and the amount of misses on 4 or 5 star talent for Florida has been their downfall as well as it has been for Texas. So I think that they're kind of on the same level as teams right now. I think if Texas were to play Florida this weekend, I think that game would be a toss up. I really do. I think that they're kind of evenly comparable teams as far as expectations and what people have used to think of them and where they are now. So yeah, I'm going to talk good about them in this sense, but I just, doesn't mean I think they're, a top 3 team in the SEC. I just think they've got the athletes to hang with Georgia and Georgia plays as bad as they did against Missouri, they're in trouble. I mean, that's just the bottom
Yeah.
line of this whole segment is if Georgia doesn't prove that they're the team that people think they were heading into this season, that they're going to lose, and it might not be just once. Because you still, like you say, you still have Alabama on the schedule. I mean, at least once. I mean, it's just, it doesn't look like there's anything to really, you know, take away because they've got, you know, so many things they gotta fix. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean they don't play Alabama in the regular season, but they do play them possibly in the SEC championship game. So that's
Oh yeah, they'll
so
play them in the SEC championship
yeah,
game.
so that's probably inevitable. But like I said, November is going to be brutal for them. They got to survive November, and that's the only month I'm worried about them in. And if they can survive November, they'll be fine. But as for right now, they could be on the outside looking in, especially if OSU wins out, especially if Michigan wins all their games heading into that weekend against Ohio State. They could be looking on the outside. If Clemson wins all their
Definitely.
games, they could be looking in on the outside. Um, for that reason too. So I mean, because I think if Michigan loses to Ohio State, they're obviously not in, and they would drop to like 7 or 8. But if that happens and Clemson is still unbeaten, I don't think a one-loss Georgia team jumps an undefeated Clemson team. At least they shouldn't. But you know, who knows?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's
Definitely. I agree.
let's get into this real quick. I was talking about this kind of leading into here, but so Michigan and Oklahoma State both have similar records. They've played kind of similar level teams, yet Michigan is ranked above them. Um, but so is USC. Um,
Hmm.
and, and I don't know how I feel about that. You look at these teams and who they've played; it's very similar. Michigan played Colorado State and Hawaii as their two non-conference games. Oklahoma State played Arizona State, Arkansas Pine Bluff, um, and like Southeast Illinois State or something. Um,
It was.
so
I think they. Yeah. I thought it was. Was it Central Michigan
yeah, they played Central Michigan and Arizona State and Arkansas Pine
and then
Bluff.
Pine Bluff?
Um,
Yeah.
and Michigan has beaten Iowa and Maryland as their two conference games, and OSU has beat Baylor as their only conference game. So there is a one game like discrepancy with the records, which could be contributing to this. But I think strength of schedule wise, OSU's got the stronger schedule and better wins so far. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like. I think they'll just move them up. Of course, if they just continue to win, I just think it's that they've had those two conference wins. That's why they had put them above them.
Yeah, I mean you're probably right, and and it's still early. I mean we're 5 weeks in here. We're not even to the halfway point. We won't be to the halfway point for another like 2 weeks. So I mean,
Yeah,
we've got some growing still to do and learning to do about some of these teams. But I think you're right. I think overall, uh, I think the strength of schedule is a little better. But I mean, I think we won't know much until OSU either slaughters Texas Tech or just wins by a little bit. I mean, that'll be a big gauge because I think Texas Tech is probably as good as Maryland. So I think that'll be kind of uh,
yeah,
a, a good one for them. Like I said, Michigan plays Indiana this week. That should be a cakewalk for them. I'm not going to learn much from that game. Um, so I mean, I mean, yeah. I guess that was the debate. Is I just think that OSU needs to be ranked above Michigan. I think Clemson still deserves to be ranked above both of them. Um, I don't know about USC being ranked above Oklahoma State either. I think those teams are very similar too. Um,
yeah. That'd be a
I
good matchup as well.
So I don't know. I think all those three teams are kind of right now in my area of like OSU could probably jump both Michigan and USC, and I'd be happier with that than I am with them being at 7 and being behind them because I feel like if they were to play head to head, they would take care of Michigan and USC. The USC game would be
Yeah,
entertaining, but I think USC's defense is so bad and OSU's offense is pretty good. I think that would be too much. I think that the scoring ability of OSU would be too much for that USC defense to handle. I think Caleb Williams is too inconsistent. So I think that OSU's defense will be able to handle him a lot better. And since they handled him well in Bedlam last year, I think that they would use that tape and try to use things that worked against him in that field and translate it over there because you got the same head coach too. So there's got to be some same
Yeah,
schemes, right? I mean, it's just
definitely.
that's just my thoughts. So I think that they should be probably ranked 6, um, or 5, right behind Clemson. Um, but that's just my thoughts on that. So let's get into our locks of the week here. So over the weekend we did locks of the week. We picked 3 games, one, and we can dip into the NFL if we want to. Um, Cole went ahead and picked Wake Forest +7, got that done. Clemson -6.5, got that done. And you picked the LA Rams by 1.5. They were the underdog. Don't know if got that one done. Did you get that one done? I didn't get to catch much of that Rams game. I'm looking. You ain't gotta look. I got you.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah, I got you. So let's look here. Um, scores from over the weekend. Yeah, Rams. Oh, that's because they play tonight. They play tonight. That's why. We don't know yet. The Rams play the
the
49ers
49ers
tonight,
tonight.
and the line did move. So I'll let you keep this game at 1.5. It did move to 2 though. San Francisco is a 2-point favorite now instead of a 1.5-point favorite. But you're still picking the Rams in that, right?
Yeah,
Okay. So
I hope they. I need them to do very well. It'll be good. It'll be good for this pick and my fantasy league.
yeah, and I went with OU -6.5, Bama -17.5, and I picked the Chiefs beat the Bucks. I went
Oh, got
I
that
went
one.
I went 2-1. The one I missed was the OU game. So I am now 4-2. And Cole right now are 3-2 with one game ending. So we will know that at the end of this evening. And that is our locks of the week. So we'll have to pick new ones this week.
Yeah,
Let's go ahead and get that done. Go ahead and give me your 3 picks. Are you dipping into your any of your bets from earlier in this thing?
I'm gonna do the OSU. I think they take care of what is it here?
Okay, so
Texas Tech.
you're picking OSU -9 as one of them.
I like Bama taking care of A&M.
Okay, so you like Bama against A&M, and that's what are those? I didn't even look at that. Um, A&M. Oh, Bama -24. Okay, okay, I see you.
Definitely. And then I'll throw my one NFL in there for next week, and I'll make sure it's not a Monday night game.
You're good.
Um, I like the Bills taking care of the Steelers.
Ooh, okay, what's the spread on that?
Finding it here. 5 points.
Bills,
Steelers,
Bills,
or yeah, 5.
Bills -5.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. For mine, ooh, I'm gonna go with. No, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna go with Auburn plus the 29.5 against Georgia. I'm gonna go with my Tennessee pick of -2.5 against LSU. And for my third pick, go back to the league here. And I'm gonna go with like I'm gonna go with the Detroit Lions
Ooh.
plus the 3 points against New England. I think my
Okay.
Patriots are very bad. So that's our locks of the week. If you're making money if you're using our locks of the week. Um, Again, I'm 4-2 heading into this week. Cole is 3-2 right now with a chance to be 4-2, with one pending. So you will know that later on this evening. So hey, good episode. Lasted a little bit longer than normal, but we got it done. Any final thoughts going out into this weekend?
Uh, only thing really to say is OU or Texas.
Oof.
But I think we got our picks there. I think we picked Texas.
Yeah, I think Texas has that one made, but that'll be a game to definitely watch for sure. We'll keep you up to date heading into next week as well. We'll review week 6 and we'll get you ready for week 7 next week. For Will Warner, as Cole Murphy. This has been Stoner Sports Radio Podcast, and we will see you next week. We are out.